Hey everybody, and welcome to our first podcast. This podcast is going to be hosted by Delbs, that's myself, and we got Titcha here.
Hey, what's up?
Alright, so let's tell you a little bit about us. I am Delbs, I record gameplays and other random videos on YouTube. My channel link will be in the description. And Titcha.
Yeah, I'm basically the same gaming commentator that bases around Minecraft and stuff like that, so yeah.
Alright, so that's a little bit about us. Now get familiarized with us so we can jump into the first topic here. It's going to be sports related. Let's talk about some UFC news. UFC161 is coming from Winnipeg, or going to be in Winnipeg actually. That's in Canada for those of you who don't know, and there's actually a few decent fights on here, but the majority of the fighters on here, this looks more like an FX card to me. I mean,
Yeah.
you have what would appear to be maybe one decent fight, or I wouldn't say one decent fight. You have one really big name or one fight with really big names in it, and then the rest of the card. I mean, there are going to be decent fights on here, but to the casual fan who doesn't watch or pay that close attention, it's not going to be that appealing of a card, I think. Because in the main event, you have Rashad Evans versus Dan Henderson. And if you're basing what you think this fight's going to play out like off of their last couple of fights just that they've had, not with each other obviously, but against their previous opponents, Rashad Evans looked like crap against Nogueira. His last two fights were was against Nogueira, the littler of the two Nogueira brothers, and then John Jones. So his last actual impressive win, I would say, of his recent fights, he lost a decision to Nogueira, the most recent one, lost a decision to John Jones, won a decision against Phil Davis, TKO'd Tito, and that was back in 2011. The fight before that was against Rampage, and that was a decision as well. And then his previous fight before that was against Thiago Silva, and that was a decision. So he really hasn't done too... I wouldn't say he hasn't really been that exciting of a fighter to watch based on his last few fights. I mean, everybody was really hyped up for the John Jones fight and stuff like that, because that Greg Jackson training camp, all that sort of stuff. But he really hasn't looked that great. And as far as Dan Henderson goes, I mean, his last fight, who did he fight? Was it Lyoto Machida, I believe? Let me pull it up. Yeah, it was Lyoto Machida, and that was Ronda on the card. That was UFC 157 with Ronda Rousey's first fight in the UFC, and everybody made a big fuss about her not being in the main event, or her being in the main event, and Machida and Henderson not being the main event. And that turned out to be the correct decision on the UFC's part, because the main event with Ronda Rousey and Liz Carmouche was actually a really good fight, but the Machida-Henderson fight was absolutely just terrible.
Yeah, I totally agree, and there's a lot of controversy with this main event as well, because people are saying these both guys have lost, back-to-back fights now. Why are they being the main card event? And now that there's so many changes involved, because
yeah, there's been a lot of alterations to the card.
Yeah, a lot. So I think UFC is going. I had a bad week, in fact, because you've got Rampage and Czech Congo announced that they're signing up with Bellator.
Yeah, which that's just... I don't even know what to say about that. I mean, I'm all for MMA expanding in the United States or in the world in general, becoming more popular and, getting more coverage and stuff like that. But if you pay any attention to Bellator's CEO, I think his name is Bjorn Rebney, or the dude who's in charge of Bellator, the bald-headed fake Dana White guy. I don't think that Bellator has the right structure. I don't think they have the right planning out. I don't think they're doing things correctly. When they went from... They were on MTV2, I think, for 2 years. They aired back-to-back seasons or something like that. Which Bellator is supposed to be a weekly promotion and stuff like that. But you can't put that many shows out and still keep your fighters relevant. You know what I mean? They don't have marquee guys. And people like Rampage, I mean... People will go see Rampage, but everybody who knows anything about MMA knows that Rampage is way past his prime. And Czech Congo, I mean, as much as I like watching Rampage fight or watching Czech Congo fight, these dudes are going to Bellator, and people who are UFC fans are saying, well, they just couldn't hack it here, so they're going to the minor leagues pretty much.
Yeah, something like that. So I guess that's what it really is, though. It's really down to they've been on a downward spiral, getting beat constantly in the UFC. I'm guessing Dana White and a couple of the other, big employees there have been putting pressure on these guys to maybe retire because they're past the point, and
Yeah.
maybe they've just pulled the plug and maybe
Well,
dropped down
Rampage,
into a lower league.
I don't know what Rampage was getting per fight. He was getting something like 400,000 for fight or something like that in the UFC, and that's like ridiculous. That's just a show. That's not his win bonus or anything like that. That's just a show. And the UFC employs something like, I think they have over 500 fighters on, or 400 fighters on their roster, I believe. And the majority of them are making, the typical like 13K to show, 13K to win type of thing. And then you have people like Rampage who I wouldn't even say that Rampage sells tickets for the UFC. I mean, he does to an extent, but for the most part he's just a big name. He's not somebody who fans are wanting to get behind to have another title push at the end of his career or anything like that. I think he has that name recognition from what he accomplished like 5, 6, 7 years ago. And with him making $400,000 and losing every single fight, that's terrible business. That's not the UFC giving him $400,000 just to show, when they have, people like Gustafsson, or who else is in the division that's doing really well. What's that? It's light heavy, that's 205. Phil Davis is also coming on pretty strong there. Then you have people like Glover Teixeira, who just came to the UFC. These are people who, or actually Glover just beat the crap out of Rampage recently. I think that forced him to retire. I think that was his last UFC fight. Those people aren't making $100,000 a fight, and those people are the ones who are going to pretty much be the future of the division. I mean, the head of the division obviously is John Jones, and it's probably going to stay that way for a while, considering he's like, what, 25, 24, 25?
Yeah, he's just an absolute animal, John Jones.
Yeah,
I don't
he's
think
just a
anyone's
beast.
going to stop him. His reach advantage, his whole techniques,
Yeah.
he's just an absolute beast. I don't think he's going to be stopped anytime soon.
John Jones is on a whole entire another level of abilities.
To be honest, I think John Jones is on top of his game, even with the fight between John Jones and Chael Sonnen.
Yeah.
There was a big hype for that. Chael Sonnen maybe was in for a shot since he, dominated Anderson Silva the first time round with his wrestling and stuff like that. Everyone thought he was going to do the same to John Jones, but John Jones just proved how much of a tank and
Definitely.
another athlete level above these guys. And to be honest, I think he's perfectly in a safe position, and he's very young as well.
There's a few threats to him, I feel, but I don't really think there's somebody that, like, in the heavyweight division you have Velasquez and Dos Santos. I mean, those dudes are arguably the two best heavyweights in the world. I mean, there's some good heavyweights out there, but these two guys are you're probably going to see Velasquez versus Dos Santos 6 before either one of them retires. I mean, you're going to see them fight several more times. I think Kane is the better overall all-around fighter, but I mean, you don't have that type of thing in the light heavyweight division. You don't have somebody who could potentially be a rival with John Jones, I don't feel.
Exactly. Now let's talk about the co-main event. So there's been a lot of changes, and obviously the main change has been this co-main event, and that was originally Nogueira versus Rua, and that was called off due to back injury with Nogueira, and then Chael Sonnen stepped up to replace him, saving it.
What did he say on Twitter? He tweeted to Shogun, "I hear Brazilian chicken is off the menu. American gangster is still available if you want to send your waitress over." He is he's good with stuff like that, definitely.
Yeah. He was gonna verse Silver in was it Fox Sport 1? Was it announced that he was gonna face? But then Silver doesn't want to do it until after December or something like that. So Sonnen's like stepped up to the mark here and willing to put it out on the line. But I think it got cancelled due to his having visa issues. So I think that match is completely called off. But I don't really know, because there's a lot of changes, as I said, happening. And yeah, I think that's rescheduled for the first Fox Sport 1 event in Boston in August. So
that's also going to have Joe Lozon versus Michael Johnson. Michael Johnson is from the town where I live in.
Yeah, Joe Lozon though is an absolute beast.
I want to root for Michael Johnson because he's my one of my hometown fighters, but Joe Lozon is one of my favorite fighters. But the co-main event will be Roy Nelson versus Stipe Miocic. And Roy Nelson, for those of you who don't know anything about MMA, who may be watching this for the first time or first hearing about MMA, mixed martial arts, or the UFC, the majority of the fighters have like 48 packs. They have like these insanely cut bodies. Roy Nelson doesn't care. He has a mullet, he has a long beard, and it has like flashes of gray in it. When you picture a mountain man, you're probably going to be thinking of something really similar to Roy Nelson.
What he does have that others don't though, he has the best known chin.
Oh yeah, on Earth, there's nobody with a better chin than him.
He's not been knocked out in the UFC, and it's gonna stay that way. I can definitely say that.
Yeah, definitely.
He stayed all rounds with Junior Dos Santos,
which nobody has ever done.
That guy's a beast.
Yeah.
So.
And in that fight, he took, he got knocked down. He took several insane shots, like right on the button, and he was still there. So his chin is like made of like granite.
And not to mention, he's got heavy hands.
Yeah. Did you see the knockout over? Who did he fight recently? Oh my
Was it not against Czech Congo? Was it not? No, I don't
that sounds right.
Yeah, I think it was against Czech Congo.
But yeah, it was Czech Congo, and he like pretty much stalked him down for what the fight lasted like a minute, I think.
Yeah.
Which I think his last two fights were both really short, because he fought Mitrione last.
But yeah, he's just a good fighter. He's got heavy chin. I don't see him losing against this unknown name.
Stipe Miocic, I wouldn't consider him unknown. He's just really undersized. I wouldn't say undersized. He's not your typical heavyweight. Like when you see him, you're gonna be like, oh, that dude should go to light heavyweight or something like that. But I mean, he's 6'4". You know, he's like 230, I think. But I mean, most heavyweights don't cut weight. I mean, people like Brock had to cut to make 265. You know, the cutoff.
Yeah,
which is extremely
Brock
weird.
Was one of my favorite. Even though he wasn't the greatest.
He wasn't a good fighter, but he was definitely worth watching.
Yeah, he was a great athlete.
I mean, could you imagine how he would have been as a fighter if he would have pursued MMA after college?
Well, I don't even want to think, because that guy's like
he would still be undefeated in the UFC, I bet.
His back is the size of a continent.
Yes,
his back is huge. Like, I think he's one of like Chael Sonnen as well. He's kind of like in the same aspect, because he's a great public speaker. He's good at trash talking, and he doesn't like to get like, pushed away from anyone.
He doesn't like to get hit either. Neither him or Chael Sonnen like to get hit. And I know, like nobody likes to get hit, obviously, but being a fighter, you can tell when people are uncomfortable getting punched in the face, and Brock Lesnar was definitely one of them. We'll start with Shields versus Woodley. I'm gonna pick Woodley, second round knockout.
I'm gonna say Shields decision.
Okay, that's viable. I could see that happen. Pat Barry versus Sean Jordan. I'm gonna say Pat Barry first round knockout.
Yeah, I'm gonna second that.
I won't predict the women because I don't know them. I'd have to do a little bit more research before I feel comfortable giving a prediction. In this one, I'm going to go Ryan Jimmo first round knockout. Although I could see Pokrajic winning a decision, because Jimmo will gas if he doesn't knock him out. But Jimmo has a lot of power.
Yeah, I'm the same for that one as well, yeah.
Okay, Roy Nelson versus Stipe Miocic. I'm going to go Nelson knockout second round.
Yeah, I'll go Nelson knockout first round. I think he's packing a punch, and I reckon he'll get it first round.
Yeah. Okay, so Henderson Evans, what do you got on that?
Henderson by second round knockout.
I'm going to say Rashad Evans by decision. I think it's going to be a really boring fight. I think we're going to see people just stand there and probably throw 10 punches around.
If that happens, then UFC is going to know about it, because there's going to be a lot of confrontation
that's going to be
going
terrible. This probably isn't going to have maybe 200,000 pay-per-view buys.
But that's our predictions and thoughts on what's
just
happened.
So as of right now, and today is June 5th.
Yep.
So as of June 5th, this is what is slated for UFC 161.
I mean, there's been so many changes over the past 2 days. From the past 2 days, there's been, Nogueira's pulled out, and then Chael stepped up, and we're like, yes, this is something good to speak about. Chael versus Rua, and then all of a sudden,
that would be a good fight.
Yeah, that would be a great fight, and it'd definitely be a good, thing to watch. But all
Well,
of a sudden they've just pulled out.
considering the majority of the fights that are on this card, I mean, I honestly, I don't care about the main event. That fight doesn't appeal to me at all. I'm gonna watch it, but it doesn't appeal to me because both of them have been really lackluster in their last few fights. The Roy Nelson fight appeals to me because I think there's going to be an exciting finish in it. Same with the Jimmo fight. The Pat Barry fight does as well. And then the Tyron Woodley Jake Shields. The Jake Shields Tyron Woodley fight arguably is probably going to be the most technical fight on here, I think.
Yep.
So the rest of the fights to me are either okay or below UFC standards, I feel.
Yeah, definitely UFC had a bad week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Which you can't blame them. I mean, at least they're still putting out a card.
Yeah.
On to, I guess, regular sports. So Sir Alex Ferguson has retired in the football world, or soccer for you Americans. If you don't know anything about football or soccer, Sir Alex Ferguson has managed Manchester United for what, 27 years? 26, 27 years?
Yeah, 26, 27. Something like that.
This is really, soccer is a sport with a very high turnover for coaches. So you're going to have somebody or managers, you're going to have somebody who manages for like 1 to 2 years, doesn't meet the expectations, they get fired. That's very, very, very common. It's not a place where, like you have John Wooden coaching at UCLA for decades, and it's not a common place for somebody to coach somewhere longer than 5 or 6 seasons. And that's like somebody who will leave the club after 6 seasons and be remembered as a legend at that club. So this guy has coached for, almost a quarter or a little over a quarter century. And within that time, he's won something like...
Yeah, I think he's won like 38 trophies at Old Trafford.
Yeah.
So
it's like 13 Premier League titles.
Mm-hmm.
There's one thing that comes to my mind every time I think of Sir Alex Ferguson. Whenever he took over, well, I guess we should state this in this podcast. We're both Manchester United fans, so if we talk about football, it's probably going to be something a little bit more appealing to the Manchester United side of things. But
yeah, it might be a bit biased.
Yeah, but he was quoted a couple of years ago. Liverpool at the time, before the Premier League started, had 18 trophies or something like that. And Sir Alex Ferguson won a couple, and then one of the Liverpool managers or owners or something said, well, when you get to our stoop or something, then talk to us, or something like that. I don't remember. Let me pull it up. I want to say it exactly, because this always pops out in my head.
So Alex Ferguson's going down in history, definitely. I mean,
greatest manager of all time.
Definitely.
At least on the club side of things.
Even if you're not a Manchester United fan, you have to give credit to this man. He's accomplished so much in the football/soccer industry, and to replace him, what do you think on the Everton manager replacing him?
I really like David Moyes as the replacement, because if you look at, I heard a funny story yesterday, or not yesterday, it would have been Monday. We were watching a game, and my buddy said, "Did you hear what happened whenever Sir Alex Ferguson was giving Moisey the tour at Old Trafford?" And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And I didn't know he was telling me a joke. I thought he was telling me something serious. And he was like, "Well, when he walked into Carrington, which is where they train at, he said, 'Now I'm going to show you a few things that you've never seen before.'" And he hands him a checkbook. So if you don't know anything about Everton, Everton is known for not having money. They're very, very, I don't want to say poor club. They do okay, but they don't have excess. They have really good fans. They have really good support. They just don't have excess of anything. And David Moyes has been there for like a decade or 8. I don't know how long he's been there exactly. I don't want to quote anything. But he's been there for quite some time, and he's kept them in the very top flight. And even, I think he went to Europe one time. Or European, or what is it, the Europa League?
Moyes and Ferguson, though. Yeah, Moyes and Ferguson, though, have been known for being good friends. Mm-hmm. And obviously they're both Glaswegian as well, so... Yeah. I don't know if he can fill
That means they're
boots.
From Glasgow, for Americans listening.
Yeah.
Which is in Scotland.
I don't know if he can fill the boots of Sir Alex Ferguson, but, Moyes was there from when Rooney became a hit star in Everton, so he's definitely there for some inspiration. I definitely reckon he's the most favoured coach and manager to take the role. And not to mention, like, the person that's stepping in for his team, like Everton, from Wigan, is Martinez.
Yeah.
And
He did a lot at Wigan with nothing too, but he also plays a three-man back line, which is extremely weird.
yeah, but Wigan was conceded a lot of goals. So
Yeah, I mean they played a three-man back line. Well, I mean, what do you expect?
yeah, but I still think Man U are gonna go strong. At the end of the day,
Oh
it's the
yeah,
team.
definitely,
It's the team that's playing.
definitely. I think if we can hang on to Rooney, we'll be all right.
I, I don't know though, because I think Rooney's on the edge of
I think he wants out. Like I think it's like he legit wants out.
and
And
then
I
you
think if we hang on to him, we'll be all right. But if we get rid of him, we definitely have to replace him with quality. You know, like you can't just let a player like Wayne Rooney go. I mean, we made that mistake whenever we let Ronaldo go. I mean, we replaced him with Valencia, but it took Valencia 2 or 3 years to become some sort of force on the team. You know.
yeah.
So with a player like that, I mean, we got really lucky with RVP. I mean, I wasn't sold on RVP when we first bought him because I only saw him as an Arsenal player who gets injured a lot. But
Yeah.
now watching him play for Manchester United, I mean, you really have to appreciate his quality, man. Like this dude his first touch is always great. He has like quality is the only word I can think of to describe him. I mean, it's just top class everything.
Yeah, he's a great, scorer.
Mhm.
He does tend to hug the ball a bit, but
Yeah.
saying that, he's a great athlete, so
Yeah.
he can afford to do that.
Mhm.
I want to talk about the kit changes in Liverpool. How bad do they look? Have you seen them?
I have not. Let me look
Oh,
these up.
they've changed the
Are they the
kits.
Warrior ones still?
I'm not too sure, but I've seen a picture of them over Facebook, and let's just say even the Liverpool fans are not too impressed. So,
Let me look these up.
yeah, no, they're not the greatest kits ever. So,
Are they like really plasticky looking?
I don't know. They just they don't look professional. They're like,
Oh, what is this? It looks like a checkerboard type of thing.
yeah, it's
Or not
not nice.
checkerboard, poker. That looks like something poker related to me. That's really
What?
ugly.
Yeah,
Here, I'll link it to you so we're looking at the same thing. No, I don't want a Liverpool email update.
yeah, that's the kit.
Yeah, that's terrible.
Yeah, it is pretty bad.
I haven't seen, usually, I follow a bunch of people on Twitter, and usually once every year I'll get or a couple times a year I'll get an update as far as like somebody saying, oh, this is a leaked picture of all the uniforms or something like that. And I have not been very active on Twitter, so I don't know what our
What's been going
uniforms
down?
even look like.
Yeah, so I would say that's roughly the news covered about on football and slash soccer. But obviously, along with Alex Ferguson retiring, another big name has retired, and that is David Beckham.
Oh, that's true. Most Americans in general, even if they hate soccer or football, will understand who David Beckham is.
Yeah.
If they don't, their girlfriend does. Every girl in America, I believe, is a lover of David Beckham.
Yeah. But he's got a family now, so
Yeah, he has, what, 3 kids, I think? And one of them just got a trial at Aston Villa, kind of sounds right?
probably,
Or
probably.
something. I don't remember. I think it was Aston Villa.
Either way, their family's going good. I mean, they've
Oh
got
yeah,
a
definitely.
professional.
I mean,
Professional
he's
football
trying
player.
to buy it here. He's trying to own a team in the MLS right now.
Mhm.
Which I think to get into the MLS, it cost $100 million, I think, just to reserve a spot because the league is expanding. So that's kind of ridiculous, I feel. Considering that the majority of MLS games aren't even broadcasted on TV here in our own country, I think that's a ridiculous price tag to have on that. But up next, I guess we have our technology stuff, unless there was something else you wanted to add to that.
Nope.
Okay, so let's start with E3.
Alright. Well, E3, for the people that don't know, is like basically a big gaming. What could you call it as? Presentation? Yeah,
It's like a convention
presentation.
mixed with like a presentation, I guess would be the.
It's just a big conference, really,
Mhm.
of like gaming consoles and stuff like that. So you got
And it's what,
Microsoft.
June 11th through the 13th, I think.
Yeah, something like that.
It's
Uh,
actually a really big thing on TV as well. If you have G3 or I think Spike even does a little thing for it in America. They show like interviews and stuff like that. But it's a real gaming convention, real big gaming convention. They do a lot of reveals on new games that are coming out this year, or new systems like PS1 and Xbox One and PS4 will probably be there.
Yeah, so you got the PS4 is going to be revealed because the console yet hasn't been, shown. They had a very good time with the games, at the exclusives stuff that they did, with the PlayStation, like, I don't know, what was it, live stream or something like that.
Yeah, I didn't watch the
Same with the
PlayStation
Xbox
one.
One.
I watched the Xbox one, and they're both.
Yeah.
I saw highlights of the PS4 or the PS4 one, and they were both really boring.
Yeah, basically what happened, PS4 showed a lot of games and was evolved around games, and then the Xbox One live stream was evolved around the console,
Like the
and
TV
this
part
Connect.
of it.
Yeah, and it's been slated because it's turned into like more of an entertainment system than an actual video games
It really
console.
feels like it's trying to become like your all-in-one everything in your living room.
Yeah, and like I think a week after the stats was up, and it said something about a 10% rise in PlayStation stock.
Oh, really?
Because
I would believe.
you know,
I feel like the PlayStation might do a little better this year, or this upcoming release, because it looks like PlayStation's more focused on
the games.
more focused on the gaming aspect of it for sure. But I think they're more focused on taking what people have suggested to them
Yeah,
about
demand.
what they want to change, and I feel like Xbox is just doing their own thing.
To credit Xbox though, they've got a good controller.
Oh, they definitely have the better system. They definitely have that.
Yeah, but I just think they're going in the totally wrong direction
Yeah.
with this TV
They
Connect.
need to
strap
just have
it.
like an add-on for it or something. You know, it doesn't, not an add-on, but what would it be, a aftermarket thing that they can
Yeah.
market at people who want that? Because I mean, there's so many people who are just, I personally don't care for PlayStation because I don't like the controllers. That's the
Yeah.
only reason I've ever not liked PlayStations.
That's exactly the same reason, yeah. Controllers.
So I'm sure PlayStations are just as good gaming machines. You know, I'm sure they're both equal. I would think they would be. But as far as like Xbox, I feel like Xbox needs to get more grounded. I feel like they're trying to get way ahead of themselves.
So probably is what's going to happen at E3. Obviously, Xbox is going to know by now that they had an absolute blast, and they just got absolute, blasted on for their conference. So they're probably going to speak more about the games and try and convince people to get back on board.
Yeah.
I don't see that happening though. But then you got the PS4. They're probably going to show off the console. They've already went through the specs, so I don't think they're going to spend too much time on the specs. But maybe they'll have some surprises with the
Yeah, and
console.
also on top of all that, the Xbox One is ugly.
Yeah.
It doesn't
Not
even
to
look
mention
cool.
that. It
does
just
not
looks
look
like a
cool.
box.
It looks like a cable box.
And people are saying, oh yeah, because it's to fit all the good stuff in. But at the same time, the PS4
Has
has
the
got
same crap.
exactly. So who
And
knows what's
it's
going to
a
happen?
really sleek design as well. It's the GTX 700 series. They first released the GTX 780, and that is the equivalent of a nerfed down Titan. So it's going to be their primary, their big money graphics card as a Titan, and that's about $1,000. I don't know what that is in pounds. I would say probably 700 pounds maybe.
Yeah, probably it's about that.
But that's a Nerf Titan, and these retail for, I want to say $599 was what they were originally released at, but I looked the other day, and they are right now selling for $650. So that you're getting about the same performance as a Titan, about 10 to 15% less than a Titan, but you're also saving $400. Then the one below that is going to be the 770, and that's pretty much a 680. It performs on the same level as a GTX 680, but there's all of these have different gigabyte RAMs and caches and all that sort of stuff. And then the one that hasn't been released yet that I'm the most interested in is a GTX 760 Ti. Now, why I say I'm the most interested in this one, I just dropped a thumbtack on my floor. I don't want to step on it. Now, why I say I'm the most interested in this is because this is going to be the one that the majority of gamers are going to probably be interested in, because it's going to hit that price point of being affordable with also great performance. So the GTX 760 Ti is pretty much going to be a 770 in between a 770 or in between a 670 and a 680. It's gonna put your performance in between there. So you're getting about a $450, $500 graphics card performance for $299. So that's going to be something that a lot of people are going to be interested in when it comes out. I myself would like to have a 780, but those are $650. The 770s are retailing for $399, and then the 760 Ti's will be $299. Also, to continue on with the spec talk, the fourth gen Intel chips just got released yesterday. Those are the 4770K, I believe, is the one that most gamers would be interested in. It's the step up from it's the next gen 3770K. So there's not too much difference, just a little quicker. And then there was some stuff about Apple.
Oh yeah, the Apple's Worldwide Development Conference, or like the WWDC as it's called. I think it kicks off on June the 10th, and the event's basically like an E3 conference or something like that, but it's a conference for Apple's HQ to tell the people out there that are interested in the company what they've got lined up and present stuff. I think like rumor has it that they've got like a new 2013 MacBook Pro coming out, among other great stuff that they've also going to be showing off and announcing. So that's something I wanted to touch on, because I know a lot of people are big Apple users. I myself...
You're an Android user? Yeah, I have a... what is my phone? It's an LG Optimus something, I don't know, but I've always had I had the Galaxy S1 and the Galaxy S2. I think I'm probably going to get the Galaxy S4. But here it's a little different with phones. I know over there's a lot of like... I probably shouldn't even say anything because I'm probably talking out of my ass, but I know over there phones are sort of like a big deal. Like in the UK, people are like really, really into their phones, and like I don't know. I have a couple of friends that live over there, and their Facebook status is always talking about phones.
Yeah, I've got friends
Phones
like
and cars.
who have to like update with every iPhone that comes out, and it has to be that. Me personally, I only recently got a phone like a year ago, and I've got my own contract and everything. I pay for it, and that was only because of like work. I need it for work. I need it for friends and stuff like that to meet up. But I really don't care about apps and all this new technology.
Like whenever smartphones first came out, I was like, oh, I gotta have that, and then I had it for a couple years, and now like the apps I use are. Let me just open my phone real quick.
I'd be happy. I'd be happy with a Nokia brick.
Oh yeah, for sure. I seriously am debating on like getting a phone just for talking and texting, because I'm always near somebody with a phone that could look up something, or I'm always by my computer or by a computer of some kind, or a tablet or something, you know.
Exactly.
So of my apps that I have, I probably have 30 installed. The ones I use on a regular basis, and by regular I mean at least once a week. I use my Capital One, which is my banking stuff. I use my Facebook app, my Twitter, and my Bleacher Report, and IMDb, and YouTube. The rest of the stuff I don't use, but all of this stuff is completely accessible on a phone.
From a computer.
Or from a computer, I mean.
Yeah. Exactly. That's exactly the same with me. I use mine for mainly texting and phoning, and on the side maybe listening to music, because I use it for the gym.
Yeah.
And the apps wise, I use Twitter, Facebook, and that's about it. I'm not ridiculous with like all these maps and like restaurant finders and data insights or whatever else you can get on these.
Yeah,
but,
for sure.
You know, I just use the basic stuff that you can access.
It's spawned a completely different like entertainment industry, you know, or not entertainment. It's spawned a completely different like subculture of technology.
Yeah, you'd definitely be felt left out if you don't even have a phone, because me 2 years ago I didn't even have a phone. I didn't even care about a phone, to be fair.
Yeah.
And you know, my friends would ask, "Oh, what's your number?" And I would be like, "Well, I don't really have a phone." So they would be like, you know, you'd be in that kind of bracket of being an outcast.
Yeah.
But it's not something you essentially need. It's just something that it's like a fashion, really.
Yeah, for sure. It definitely is one of those like social standard type of things. I guess Apple would.
I definitely have friends that are like die-hard Apple fans, and I'm like, what the hell? They've got like like high resolution screens.
I mean, I just don't understand it. I mean, I understand the simplicity of the iPhone. I understand how it's appealing because it looks cool and stuff like that. But at the same time, the phone's just as good as every other phone, you know? I
Yeah.
mean, you can look at apps, you can look at the internet, you can call people, you can text people, you can take pictures, you can take videos. Apart from that, what makes your phone good? Because it talks back to you or something? I don't know. I don't really care though. I mean, this is one of those things that like I really don't have an interest in. My best friend works at T-Mobile, and he's one of those people who is very in detail. He's very wrapped up, like how we are with the UFC is how he is
Yeah.
with phone stuff. So he watches like tech reviews and anything to do with phones. This dude is all over it. Now you could say something to him about any type of phone and he'd probably be able to tell you the specs on it and all that random other stuff. But it's just it's weird for me because I don't have an interest in that, so it's hard for me. I've always been the kind of person, which is stupid of me to be this way, but I've always been the kind of person who, if other people have their own interests and I don't see a point to it, I just shut it down or I don't care about it. And
That's exactly the same.
It's retarded, or not retarded. It's very stupid of me to be like that.
I want to
you
ask
know?
you something, right? Because there's something going on in the UK. I don't know if it happens in America, but there's something within the youth side of things, which is a craze with scooters. Now, push scooters. Do you have you got that in America?
Are you talking about like the Razor scooters?
Like, yes, like something like that. Like push scooters. People like,
I think we've already been through that phase.
oh
I
man,
think that's
this has
it's
been
been a couple of years.
yeah, this has been going on for about 2 years, right? And it's just non-stop growing, and it's really bizarre because it's one of them things that is a fashion thing, and I'm sitting from the sideline thinking, what are you doing? There's like people in my year who were like 16 years old riding push scooters around
No,
on the
here
streets.
that would be frowned upon because everybody here cares too much about what people think of them.
Well, I'm like one of them. I'm like, what are you doing? And
Yeah.
there's just so many people doing it though that it's just sort of being normal, and I'm just like sat there like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
But everyone's into their own stuff. As I said, different types of background. Like me coming from the United Kingdom, growing
Yeah.
up in like getting onto the UFC. There's not many people in the United
Oh
Kingdom
no, definitely.
that's
And
actually
I mean
fun.
that would sort of be the same with me in football.
Yeah, exactly. Because
I mean, what people in Europe do not understand, like any European person I talk to about football, they just assume I know stuff. Like they assume everybody around me knows stuff. They assume everybody in America enjoys this. Like
yeah,
whenever the World Cup was going on, there was one restaurant, one bar in my city of 250,000 people that was showing any of the games. One restaurant. I mean, what would that be like in England if one restaurant showed that was it in
That
like where you live? It would be like
it'd be
pandemonium. Yeah. So there is seriously like our interest in America is completely different than it was whenever I first got into football. I first got into it in 2006 when my buddy showed me a Thierry Henry YouTube video, and I thought it was the coolest shit I ever saw in my life. So I got into watching football, and then I became a Manchester United fan, and the rest is history. But I mean, it's been 6 years since I got into it, and over the course of the 6 years, I have friends who now enjoy it. I have relatives who watch soccer. Or football. I mean, it's so different now compared to 6 years ago when I first got into it.
yeah.
I mean, in America, it's pretty much like a little kid's game. That's how it's viewed. It's viewed as little kids play soccer. Once you get to high school, you play a real sport like American football. That's how it's viewed here.
Yeah.
So, I mean, could you imagine if America's best athletes played soccer? How good we would be? I mean, could you imagine like LeBron James or Chris Paul or Kobe Bryant on a soccer field? If we got that quality of athletes, we would probably be a decent team.
Yeah. That's like the cultural wise, that's like exactly the same thing. Because I'm from the UK, so it's not well known, the UFC, cage fight and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So you ask like anyone who my friends wise, or like same year wise, in where I live, people will just think, you tell them, do you know anything about UFC? And they'll be like, no, what's that? And like you'd show them Yeah,
Yeah.
like, cause I watch cage fighting on, like, say in ICT.
Yeah.
I would pull it up and just watch videos in class, and people would just be like, people would actually mistake it for wrestling.
Oh, really?
People would be like, "Oh, is that the fake? Is that the fake version?" And I'm like, "What? How
Well,
can you?"
also regular wrestling is really popular in the UK, isn't it? Like the WWE stuff.
Yeah, like WWE, everyone knows WWE. I don't think
Yeah.
not one person doesn't know that, but like that's what I'm saying. I'm watching UFC here. People are getting bloodied up, and punches are getting laid down, and like my mates and people in my class are like, "Is that that's the fake one?" And I'm like, "Is it?" And I'm like, "What? What are you going on about?" Like,
Yeah. I definitely understand what you're saying.
so it's one of them things that you have to,
Definite similarity contrasting each other there.
yeah. But everything's into different stuff. It's
Mhm.
pretty cool though. So
Yeah. I mean, think about like the technology we have nowadays, you know? I mean, we're able to have a conversation over the internet and possibly create something cool from it.
exactly.
So that's
Like
crazy.
halfway across the world, and
Mhm.
you know, we never even knew anything about each other,
Yeah.
and then we just meet online, and the technology nowadays just makes the world a smaller place.
It definitely does, for sure. For sure.
So
And
that's
I
pretty
mean,
cool.
think about what did you do 5 years ago before you watched Netflix?
Don't know.
I mean, I spend at least a couple hours every day watching Netflix.
Yeah.
Whether that's a show with my girlfriend or just having my TV on or something, because recently I got a Roku, which is a streaming device. It's just for streaming TV, and I canceled my cable, which I really like. I don't regret because I'm saving, $70 a month, but I regret because now I have to go to somebody's house to watch the fights, or like when my show comes on, I have to go somewhere to watch it.
Yeah. Well, it's
So
it's
that
very
part
hard
sucks.
to find in the UK, like UFC. So you'd
Oh
have
yeah,
to have like subscriptions or something like that specific
yeah.
for on like Sky Broadband or something like that.
Mhm.
Um,
But
whereas
whenever I
me,
had cable,
yeah,
I ordered every fight. It was just easy for me to sit at home and watch it and spend $40.
yeah, I guess. Like on the subject of Netflix and stuff like that, didn't you have a topic of TV Spotlight or something like that?
Yeah, I wanted to try to recommend a show that you guys have probably not ever watched or given a chance to watch. There's a couple of them. First one being Parenthood. Parenthood's a show about being a parent. It's about family. It's really entertaining. It's really funny. It's really dramatic. It's really serious. It's goofy. It has everything you could ever want in a TV show in it. So that's my first recommendation of something that you should watch if you get bored and don't have anything to watch. Definitely check out Parenthood. Also, on the more serious note of a TV show, House of Cards. Have you watched any of that?
No, I haven't.
Okay, well, House of Cards it's produced by Netflix. Netflix makes it. It has Kevin Spacey in it, the guy who was Lex Luthor in the most recent Superman movie. But he is a politician. He's a congressman, and it deals with American politics, and it is really good. I don't want to give too much away about it, but there's like I want to say 13 episodes. They're all about 50 minutes long. But if you watch the first couple of episodes of that show is gonna hook you in. I'm telling you. I spent 3 days. That's all I did, watching that show.
Yeah, like suggestion wise, it's a bit weird because from the UK there's programs that you'd never ever heard of, and from the US,
One of my favorite
is
comedies that I found on Netflix ever was from the UK. It's called The IT Crowd.
oh yes,
I love that
yeah.
show. I can't
Yeah,
get any of my
that's a great
friends
show.
to finish an episode of it. I can't. I'm like, if you finish one episode, you'll like it, I promise. And they won't do it.
Yeah,
That show is
the
hilarious, I
IT
think.
crowd's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
There's like even like programs such as like Breaking Bad or The Walking Dead are not even popular where I live. You ask people
Oh, are
and
you
they
serious?
just
Those
yeah,
things
they
are
just
the
don't
biggest
know.
shows here.
Exactly. Have you watched Workaholics?
A little. I've seen the first episode of it.
Yeah, because
It's one
I
of
don't know
those
if
shows.
that's popular
It's
in
one
the
of
US,
the.
but
It's popular here. It's one of those shows that I have like saved for a rainy day of when I don't have anything else to watch,
yeah.
because I know I'll
Right.
watch it and be enjoyed.
One of my cousins recently recommended that to me, and I've just been absolute blitzing that. It's
It's
so
pretty
funny. It's
funny.
like, yeah, it's kind of like I don't know. Would you compare it to The Office? But,
I would
but
say
like
it's a
a
very immature office.
yeah,
And I don't mean immature as like, I mean, well, they do act immature, but I would say it's for a younger audience than what likes The Office.
yeah,
It's for like college and high school kids. That brand of humor mixed with The Office.
yeah,
For sure. It's funny though.
yeah. I've been loving the series. I just
Mhm.
recently finished the third season,
Yeah.
and I only started watching them like yesterday, so
Yeah.
I've been blitzing through them.
I'll have to definitely get into them. But it's one of those things. Also, I have Grey's Anatomy there too. It's one of those shows that everybody tells me I'll love it, so I just have it saved away. Now I didn't watch Lost, for like until it was completely off TV and out for like a couple of years, because everybody told me like you just get pissed off because you have to wait a week to find out what happened. So I was like, I'm never gonna watch one episode of this. I'm gonna wait till it comes out, and then I'll watch them all at once on Netflix.
Yeah,
And I did that, and then I have a couple of other shows that are like that people tell me like this is what you have to watch, and one of those shows is Workaholics. And it's only because if I get bored, I have something to fall back on, because I watch a lot of Netflix shit.
yeah. I like one of the biggest TV programs that I've not watched is probably I get it recommended as well, but it's just I can't get into it, and it's Game of Thrones.
Now see, I tried to get into Game of Thrones, and it took me half the season before I understood who was who or what was going on. But once you kind of sort of figure out what's going on and who's who, the show becomes amazing.
Yeah, it was kind of like Breaking Bad for the first episode I've never ever heard of it,
Hmm.
and my cousin recommended it to me.
Yeah. Well, Game of Thrones I think is probably the most popular show right now on TV.
Mhm.
I would say so. That or maybe Walking Dead.
Yeah, The Walking Dead's. I personally think it's pretty one of the best TV
Oh yeah,
programs out
I
there.
love it. Yeah, it started out as a comic book,
Mhm.
but what kind of movies do you watch?
I don't know. I don't really have a specific genre of movies. Whatever's like trending at the minute. Have you watched any recently?
Last night I went to watch Now You See Me. It's that magic movie with the kid from the Facebook movie.
All right.
It was pretty good. It reminded me a lot of The Prestige. Have you ever seen that?
Nope.
It's a magic movie. It had Edward Norton in it. But it was really entertaining. But there was a lot of stuff that I would have done differently in the movie. I would have ended it different. The ending, I think, was the worst part of the movie. For the 2 hours we were watching, I was entertained the entire time. And then when the end came, I was like, no, this just doesn't make sense to do this and have this stuff happen this way when it showed it happening that way. Like, it just didn't add
Yeah.
up. I don't want to give too much away, so I'm trying to be very vague about stuff. But I would have ended it differently. But if you watch it, you won't be disappointed. You'll definitely be entertained the entire movie.
That was like for me, The Law-Abiding Citizen. I recently watched that, and what a great film that is. That film is by far one of the best seen films I've seen recently. But the ending is just something you can't get your head around. It's like, I would have done it a bit differently, you know.
Yeah.
So, but it was a great
That
movie.
was one of those movies that kind of let me down.
But The Law-Abiding Citizen. Oh,
Yeah. Also, another one of those movies like that would be 7 Pounds. Did you ever see that with Will Smith?
no, I haven't seen that.
Yeah, it kind of just it wasn't. It was too predictable. Everything in the movie was just predictable. Like The
Yeah.
Law-Abiding Citizen, you kind of just know everything.
Do you know what isn't predictable?
What?
Have you seen the film Looper?
Oh yeah, I love that movie.
That is one of the greatest films.
Everybody hates it. Everybody gave it such terrible reviews. I loved that movie.
Yeah, I love the film too, but it's one of them films that you have to watch it around the second and third time
yeah,
because
definitely.
the first time round you just
Mhm.
get mind
Yeah,
blown.
for sure. Yeah,
Like,
it was really good.
It's a trippy film, but once you watch it the second time round, the third time round, you already know the whole plot, and
You still
it
find
makes-
stuff different.
yeah,
Now that's,
exactly.
for me, I don't know how old you were when The Matrix came out, but I was a teenager. Whenever The Matrix came out, it was such a big deal. I mean, it was such a good movie. There wasn't
Yeah.
anything like it. It was just kind of off on its own little like niche in the world. And it was one of those movies that every time you watched it, you would find out something different, or you'd see how it would relate to something in your life, or I don't know. It was amazing. It was the first movie I ever watched that caused me to start thinking of stuff. You know, like thinking of how the world works, or
Yeah.
it opened my eyes to a lot of crap. And that was very like a very big turning point in cinema. I feel whenever The
Yeah.
Matrix came out.
And Matrix is such a good film, even
hmm
now, even though
Even
it's an
now, it
old
still
film.
stands up with
Yeah.
the graphics. I mean, it's what 14 years old. It came out in like 1999, I think.
Yeah. Something like that. And it is still a really good film if you look back on it. But like, have you seen The Hangover or any new films recently? Like the new
Um,
Hangover.
I haven't seen the newest Hangover. I was really let down with Hangover 2, so I didn't really want to give this one a chance.
Uh, that's the thing. These next movies like Hangover 1 was amazing.
hmm
Then how do you top that
Sequels
off?
are usually terrible.
Yeah.
Sequels are usually terrible. The only like there's a few sequels that are really good, and there's even sequels that are better than the original. But for the most part, sequels are terrible.
Yeah. But like Fast the new Fast and Furious
Yeah,
is
I
like
haven't
it's got like
seen.
mixed reviews.
Yeah,
It's
I haven't
like
seen Fast 6, but Fast 5, in my opinion, is the best one out of all the movies they've had.
same mine would
I
be
love that
mine would
movie.
be like Fast and Furious, like just the Fast and Furious because that was like based around the cars and like
hmm
just
Well, see,
basically action.
I'm not a big car person, so the bank robbing aspect of it was interesting to me. That was what appealed the most to me. So I like how they did all that stuff in Fast 6 or Fast
Yeah.
5. But I don't know crap about
Like the
cars.
Yeah, me neither. But like The Rock is being seen in these new films now.
hmm
Uh, and yeah, it's got like mixed reviews because people are just saying like, they're dragging it on too long. You know, the
Yeah,
series because this is like now like the seventh or sixth
yeah.
uh like one. But who knows? Like when's that time to stop? Like after the second one, after the third one, what do you reckon?
Oh man. It really depends. I mean, if you have an audience who's still gonna go to the movies and you're still gonna make more money than you spent, creating the movie, then I would say continue on. But
So,
if you're not trying to create something that's gonna be like, like the Dark Knight trilogy, you know what I
yeah.
mean? Like Batman Begins, Dark Knight Rises. Like if you're not trying to create something like that, then I say get as much money out of it as you can. But that's just from a like capitalist American perspective.